Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War Dinner Time event in which the Monster Muncher is added to the game. He comes in with a lot of brown purple arcane trait stones. You're going to want to use this on things like Keeper of Souls later in the game, as well as the Drake Rider early on in the game to utilize his revive capabilities. As far as the Monster Muncher itself, it's pretty standard to all of the other troops that have a sort of mechanic similar to him. Essentially what they do is they deal damage to an enemy, double if the enemy is the type that they counter. In this case it is a monster. They gain 5 life, and then they have a 50% chance to devour whatever they counter, which is monster. They all have the 2x skull damage against whatever type that is, which in this case is monster. He has the big trait and something unique to him, which is quite decent, or at least as far as these type of troops are concerned. There is another troop that has this trait, but it summons a dust storm when an enemy dies. One thing that's pretty nice about this is this storm is indeed his own color. It is a brown, so you'll be able to get a storm of its own color. Works really well with something like Grogolfa. He's going to be really good in a Grogolfa, Dragon Soul, Christine X, and then him combo to utilize him for the extra bonuses. But really any team with Grogolfa plus a Monster Muncher is going to be quite highly advised this week to get the free gold from the event. With that being said, let's actually go over the little event things. Of course, as I already said, you do get 500 gold from using him in PvP. Highly advised to do so with a Grogolfa if you happen to have one fully traded. As far as the bonuses, there is 10% to all giants as well as 10% to all monsters, which is kind of funny because it's kind of like a back and forth, because you're probably going to be using quite a bit of giants this week and everyone's going to be countering it with the monsters, or not countering it, but you know, the Muncher counters the monsters, so it's going to work out in a perfect synergy with a 10% for both sides. And as far as the event itself, we need to kill a bunch of monsters in PvP. Unfortunately, we can only do it in PvP this week, but it's only 150, so it's going to be pretty easy to do. Quite a bit of the meta right now is monsters, two most notably being things like Kraken, Corvash, stuff like that. So you'll be able to counter out both of these. Speaking of Corvash, there is a Corvash this week if you want to go get him. He is that troop right there. He is the legend from Leonis Empire. That is the week that this event is for. It's a little bit hard to tell since it's you can only tell by the background these days. They don't have any indication on cards, but it is indeed a Leonis Empire event, which means basically this entire drop pool as far as the higher rarity is just Corvash. There's no mythics in this kingdom, and the only legend in the entire kingdom is Corvash. So if you've been needing an Emperor Corvash, definitely use some event keys this week. If you already have an Emperor Corvash, you have no need whatsoever to use event keys because everything else is pretty much useless within the drop pool. As far as things that are craftable this week, pretty much nothing. Oops, that is not crafting. That is the dungeons. To the Soul Forge. As far as troops that are craftable this week, pretty much nothing. The only thing that you may go for is possibly Infernus, mainly if you just want his nice burn or his really high impact damage with some mana generation back. The only slight other one may be Web Spinner. Don't think it's really worth spending the resources for, though the troop itself is pretty decent. It's one of the slightly easier to obtain infinite loop kind of troops, where you can use it with something like a Forest Troll, Green Seer, or both of them if you want. They have no color conflict, or both of them, and basically just create a bunch of greens onto the board and just keep spamming it over and over again until you inevitably win. And it does a lot of skull damage as well. But yeah, so not really too much to craft this week. I'd pretty much just hold off. Unless you see something that you've been wanting to pick up. Otherwise, just keep saving until we get that Farish Raw coming around. As I mentioned with the thing earlier, there was a slight change, or don't think I mentioned a slight change, but all of these troops that are similar to this, I don't know exactly what to call them. I guess the giant counters? Well, they don't counter giants. They're giants that counter other troops. But there are these 4 troops. There's probably going to be more in the future. Oh, I just noticed they cover every color. But anyways, these troops are all set up in the same way. And as you can see, like I explained earlier, they all do their damage to an enemy. They counter a specific troop. They gain life, and they have a chance to devour. What was changed today is every single one of them was made uniform, so that they purely counter out whatever troop they are supposed to counter out. Before it was kind of mixed and matched. Like this one used to do double damage to Fae before, and I think he had a different Slayer and stuff like that. But basically, they aligned each one of them to counter a specific one now. So Monster Muncher is a pure monster counter, Elf Eater is a pure elf counter, a Gob Chomper is a pure goblin counter, and the Dragon Cruncher is a pure dragon counter, and every future one that is similar to these kind of giants will be set up in the exact same way, I would assume. So that was one of the other kind of small rebalance changes that was pretty much needed. That actually was a really decent change, because now you'll actually be able to use all of these. Before, they were kind of okay to use, but they didn't really get much use. Still probably not gonna get excessive use. Many of these were mainly only added when they were needed to counter out something specifically. Like, for example, Gob Trumper was added when goblins were running rampant. Dragon Cruncher, same reason, when dragons were running rampant. And Monster Cruncher, or Muncher I should say, now that monsters are kind of running rampant with things like the Kraken. So let's get into some teams. We're going to be rolling with two of them. I mentioned the Gorgolfa, Dragon Soul, Christinex, Monster Muncher before. That combo can be used. We're going to be running with this one, though, in a skull-oriented team, as well as a Gorgolfa one after, because really, almost every single team with them should pretty much be a Gorgolfa version, just because of how good they're going to work. Unfortunately, we did not get a mana surge there on either of the manas that we needed. Board, what do we do with you? There is not much to go for. I am leaning towards just taking that skull. Of course, that is a monster, so he does do twice as much damage to it right there. Trying to find ourselves some nice moves. I don't know if for sure if I want to take this. I guess we're going to go for it. Probably shouldn't have. Looked like it did more harm than benefit to us, so I'm just going to convert for no extra turn now that we don't have it anymore. And he ends up getting a full Corvash. That's not good. That's also the wrong move. Let's see. Is there anything we can do to stop him right here? We could devour him, but it does not look like we'll be able to get that off in time. Nope, he's going to get that right down and counter us out. So we'll just rebuild our mana and go from there. So one nice thing is pretty low mana cost, only a 12 on all these guys, so pretty simple to get back up. Should only take about 3 turns or so most of the time. At this point, I might just skull kill him. That might just be the easier route at this point. And we get some red and yellow cascade. And he also drains the wrong one. Though, come on now. That's not good. Well, we can take the skull. That is enough to kill. That's not exactly the way I wanted to have to kill him, but I guess it works. Let's see here. I guess we just take a brown, so we'll go move that over. I just noticed now he's using an all-monster team. So hopefully we can get lucky now. One slightly bad thing about these crunchers or munchers or whatever each one of them is called is that it's a 50% chance, so you're really gambling on if it will or will not devour. It's pretty devastating when it doesn't. Luckily now all of them do end up doing 2 times damage to the type that they're supposed to counter. So at least that's a little bit better, because even if you do miss the devour, at least you're still getting a decent amount of damage against one of them. So we'll go take another brown right here. At this point, we might not even need these gold spam portion of this team. We had it there just to be able to utilize his damage, of course. So I guess we'll do a little bit there. That battle definitely didn't work out as we would have wanted to, but at least we still got it down. But yeah, counters monsters pretty well, that is for sure. Let's see what we have for our next battle. Another monster one, well, only one. We have to deal with the Kraken. I don't think Doomclaw is a monster, even if it was. We still can't devour something that has immune to devour, even if it did. So we'll go with the casting version now. So we're going to go with a Gorgolfa Apothecary Monster Cruncher, or Crusher, or gosh, they all have different names. Muncher. The alliteration there was the double M's. But yeah, we're going to go straight into him, get the devour, and kind of go from there. We're not going to be using his skull value at all. We're also not going to be using his 2 times damage. It's basically as if he's almost not even traded. Though, in a way, we will still be using his traits, though. We will be using his Brown Storm that he creates once he gets a kill. And one pretty nice thing about him is, since you're going to be using him specifically on teams to counter monsters, obviously you don't use him when there's a monster on the opposing team, you can get a really quick storm onto the board, which is quite helpful, particularly with something like Gorgolfa, which is why I mentioned it, because we'll be able to just throw that down and ideally get an extra turn at a lot higher rate. And nope, of course we wouldn't get it right there. But let's go get our silences down, make sure they stay disabled. He has no other monster on the team, so we don't get to get much value out of him here fourth. Generally, if you are going to use this guy, you'd only want to use him if there are 2 or more monsters on the opposing team. You can use it with less, definitely at least 1, obviously, on the opposing team, but generally you'd want 2 or more, because with only 1, as you can see right here, Don't really get to use him for much. You can still keep poking with him, and you can still keep utilizing the storm you get out of him, but you're getting a lot less value, obviously, from not having any of that specific type on the team. It's also why you should basically never go a bunch of the those giants that do their 50% thing, mainly because if you go and just spam them like crazy, they won't really have that much value since they're made to specifically counter something. And if you're using them all on the same team, well, they're not going to be able to do the specific counters that they're supposed to do. So he'll just take a poke there. We can take our... Oh, wait, I saw that was extra turn. Nope, never mind. That is not one. So let's go get our Merline back up. We can actually just win off of that, simply, and go from there. So we'll go move that. Get our double poke right here. We get double damage because it was already silenced. And now we can just take a skull into basically anything, and we shall kill it with the Muncher. And down it goes. So yeah, that is the new troop this week. Hey, we got that green runic. I was needing that on my other account so badly earlier, and now we get it instantly on this account. But yeah, those are the new Munchers and the updated to all of the other giants similar to that. Definitely would suggest using the other giants, giving them a shot too if you haven't used them before. Gob Tromper in particular is pretty nice with his empowered from the first turn. I also like using Dragon Cruncher, mainly because it's the only one out of them that actually has Impervious. So you can use it in first slot or last slot. Last slot, of course, to counter out Krakens and stuff, or first slot to counter out, well, anything, because it is Impervious, and you get to mainly counter out those dragons with its 2 times and its chance to devour them. But yeah, gonna be quite a bit of fun to start using these against Kraken. I do have to say, this might be the final nail in the coffin for Kraken. I don't think it's going to get much usage after today. Don't really see much of a purpose in using it, particularly on a Guild War day, because or a lot of people are going to start using it on their defend on Guild War days, on at least one of the days. So that day is likely going to be a green or purple day, and then it's going to be a lot harder to use a Kraken on one of those days. I was already struggling in the previous week trying to use Kraken post-nerf, and I think I might just stop using it in Guild Wars now. Because it is weak enough now that there are other alternatives that will win better than it. So just to let you all know, might want to switch that out if you're still using that on Guild War Day in advance for the green and or purple day. But anyways, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a wonderful day. Goodbye, everyone.